5, we'll call the Exec Finance Committee to order.
4:05, I will call the Personnel Bargaining Committee meeting to order.
One of us, the open meetings law requirement has been met according to Paul or whoever. You want to take over, or do you want me to?
We have an 8-item agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor of approving, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. So item number 4 is update for committee regarding proposed jailer compensation plan.
So,
Turn that to, thank you. Yes.
And I
yep,
guess
so you have that in front of you. So we're gonna backtrack and talking about, this had come before the
That's fine.
Personnel Bargaining Committee, the last meeting. And so we're coming back because we wanted to bring back the resolution with the two of you and then make sure that we discussed full wage work that we've been doing. So the sheriff, Wayne, and Carol, myself, we've been pulling these numbers together. So I apologize for the lateness on some of this because this is not, I like to get it out earlier than this, but having just arrived here in Trempealeau County, I'm still getting my feet wet, as you can imagine, so I appreciate your patience as we work through that. But so just as a reminder, on the top sheet, you have the copy of comparable wages in this paper clip copy here. Sheriff just passed out a new form, a new page on there that he has written in there, some new information. As you can see, there, there's a lot of upward movement right now, and if you read the memo that I had put, excuse me, in the packet and sent out, the memo talks about why. Why is that happening? Well, at the state, the prisons have started at $31 and $41 an hour. And then the State Highway Patrol is also making, starting at 41. The state has been pushing those wages up, and so that draws people from the jails into those types of employment opportunities. So we're seeing a lot of upward movement and trying to make sure that we keep staff. And so those people are kind of taking opportunities for these types of changes. So that was brought forward then by the sheriff last month in talking about the need to bump that up. The committee took a look at on the wage scale where, we felt comfortable in moving that number to. It was determined to try to get us to $24 an hour. Entry, and that would mean $1.62 an hour increase. If you look at the second page that's got the blue on it, and it goes across, we worked with our wonderful HR help here with Lisa, who's been really helpful also in pulling data together. And, we talked about compression and the problem that occurs if you're going to give $1.62 to the jailers, it compresses then on the sergeants and the captain, which doesn't, why would you take a management role if you're going to make the exact same or very close to what the jailer's making, right? So we took a look at saying, okay, really the $1.62 needs to go across all of those wages within that department, within the jailer's area. And so did that, and then if you look at the next stapled 2 pages, those have a breakdown of what does that mean? What's the impact on the county budget? And so the second page, if you flip to the second page, that breaks down the cost of what that would cost the county through the remainder of the year. Because we're already a little bit into it, if you looked at adding the $1.62 across all of those positions and including the benefits, WRS, Social Security, Medicare, then the total fringe included, we're looking at a $55,000 impact throughout the rest of this year. If you look at the first page then and flip back to that, what we need to be considering is in 2025, we will have a $73,000 impact to provide those wage increases. Now, normally, I would say this is not the opportune time to be putting raises into your schedule because you don't have it budgeted. We don't have that money set aside yet. And we don't know what the 2025 budget's going to look like until we get into the fall. So I would not recommend that. But we know that, because of the upward pressures of wages plus what's happening, just the investment that we've made into this center, it's important that we're fully staffing it for not only safety purposes, but also to make sure that we are making sure that we've spent the money appropriately in building what we've done. So if you look at the last page, then this is actually the write-up of the resolution, and it talks about that this year, again, those wages of a little over $55,000 would need to come from the general fund in order to cover that because, again, we do not have that budgeted in line in a specific budget area. Now, we are over in our collection of sales tax, a healthy over, and Paul just reported on that this week, and I do think, we're healthy enough in that as well as our general fund in order to handle something like this. And I do think that this is a worthwhile investment for sure. I'm going to ask Wayne or Sheriff if they want to come up and share other information.
What are we talking about, this taking it back? At the last committee meeting, it was April 1st, if we could get it through the March meetings, yep.
Is that the beginning of a pay period? Sorry. Because
Yeah,
that's a really bad day.
And that would be all right. I mean, that's, I don't know if, I think April 1st is actually a Monday.
I think
so-
that's what we figured out.
We were intending it to be the beginning of the pay period.
It's a Monday.
Yeah, yeah. It might be
We
middle-
always
it might
think
be middle,
about,
but-
we always think about
tell us,
you,
but I'm pretty-
Stace.
I think we
Yeah.
did check on it.
While she's looking, I just want to mention, some of you have seen this, but just some of you have not. This is a Facebook ad that the Wisconsin Department of Corrections put on Facebook. And of note is Stanley Correctional, which is less than an hour drive time from here, is starting their brand-new employees out at $39 an hour. The State Patrol, not that it affects jail wages, but we do have jailers that are thinking about getting their law enforcement certification. State Patrol is starting out at $31 an hour. If they have 6 years of experience and want to transfer to the State Patrol, they're going right to $46 an hour. Of note in this list that I handed out to you, the Eau Claire you'll see is their starting is $26.29 and their top is $37.10. But this is another Facebook flyer that Eau Claire put out on Facebook a few weeks ago. They're starting their correctional officers out at $28.39 an hour. So, they're getting up into the wage scale where they're even starting there. We lost one employee to Eau Claire County Jail now because of wages, and I have a female, the rumor has it that she has gotten an interview up there. So.
Didn't we just hire her?
Not this one.
Oh, okay.
No,
You had an opening for a
we
long
have
time.
we have a female opening, and we do have somebody in the background
Okay.
investigation right
Okay,
now.
good.
That was an opening that was open for 3 months before we had an applicant, so.
Okay.
We were hoping that this, it's an odd amount, the $1.62 an hour is an odd amount, but that was, the committee thought that would be, to make that an even $24 an hour versus $23.80 something would be a little bit more attractive. It's like the $1.99 gallon of gas, it's, it looks more attractive. So that's why you see that $1.62 an hour. So, another thing I want to point out is this does not talk about reclassifying, but that's something I think we're going to have to consider at some point is reclassifying our jailers because they now, by law, qualify for the Wisconsin retirement system as a protected class employee, and they are in a grade on the pay scale that probably should be higher than that grade now because they are recognized as protected status employees as well. And that recognizes the dangers of the job. That's why they fall into that class. So we may have to look at reclassifying at some point.
For the sake of the people on exec finance, they probably didn't hear this discussion before, but can you speak a little bit about the impact of housing out-of-county inmates in our jail and our jailers? I see there's an opportunity to offset some of this expense to taxpayers of the county by being able to house house those out-of-county inmates here and having staff allowing us to do that.
Yes. So, you know, for the sake of saying it, I just want to say, you know, we didn't build this building in order to generate revenue. We built it, a long-term solution, a number of beds that are going to be unfilled, so why not take advantage of it and maybe try to use it as a revenue source? So we have been spending $150,000 to $230,000 out of county. That's what's been budgeted anyway, every year for 25 years probably. And now we have an opportunity where maybe we can start recouping that. I will say for 2024, because we did not get into the new building in January like we had hoped, and what we budgeted for, I'm about $50,000 over budget for 2024 for out-of-county housing right now. My plan was to start taking inmates from other counties in around July. I'm gonna bump that up to about April, and if I can get 12 inmates in our jail in April and hold that throughout the year, that will more than make up that $50,000 shortfall and would help offset some of this as well, and so.
Talking to Buffalo County yesterday, they plan on being there in June, from open in June. This is even better.
Yes, there's a lot of potential. Jackson County is looking at a remodel right now, and while we are very early in the talks, we could potentially be getting all of their inmates. So Buffalo and Peplin are talking about building a facility. You know, in the meantime, they may need some help, just like John was saying there. So right now, there is some demand out there.
Okay, question. How do you feel about staffing? Have you been into it long enough that our staff, the numbers that you were hoping could handle it?
So the first week, they were really overwhelmed, and we had to stop bringing inmates back for a day to let things settle down and give them a little bit of a break. The second week went better, and I guess I'd have to have Joan here. I did ask her just the other day how things were going over there, and she said much better. Okay. So again, you know, back a year or two ago, I mentioned to this board that, or the county board, that we have an opportunity to expand our programming now that we get more inmates in there. We may have a need for more programming, and I would probably ask for an additional position for that programming position. That would help a lot during the week if we start taking inmates on and they start feeling a little bit overwhelmed over there. That one position would help a lot. So it's possible that I may be coming for that one position, but you know, there's counties in the state that run jails just like this with the same number of employees, so.
Can you further expand, I guess, just, I don't want you to give us an exact number, but kind of a rough idea in our head of what is that cost per day or per week that we would receive for housing out-of-county inmate?
So I'm in the process of working up contracts with Clark County and Jackson County. For a few years, it's been $45 a day. You know, wages have gone up, meals are going up, medical costs are going up. I don't know if that's going to be the rate, or maybe I would propose a little bit higher. But I think you're looking between $45 and $55 pretty safely, and maybe closer to that $50 mark. So per day, per inmate.
April 1 is good, thanks.
Is that about what you've been paying to the other counties when you've had to?
We've been paying 45.
45.
Yeah.
Still way cheaper than a nursing home.
Yeah, $10,000 a day.
Yeah. Sometimes I think they get treated a little better too.
So, I don't see any overtime in this calculation. Did we put an overtime factor in these rates?
No, this is just straight wages, just normal wages. And yeah, the overtime, you know, there is a certain, I don't know what the number is, but my overtime right now is probably right around 60,000.
It's
So-
okay. I only asked because
Yeah.
I didn't see it in there.
Yeah.
And so my next question is that enough? Right? Do we need to cover that? I don't want to have to come back to this again. I think we need to make sure that we solidify this at least for the remainder of this year.
Yeah.
And not have to come back for more because we're over budget in these items, but.
So not all shifts, you know, if they take a vacation day, they don't all result in overtime. So, you know, it would be, you know, I guess, I don't know, 19 or 18 employees, and however many days off they get a year, and then there's a certain percentage of that we have to fill with overtime. Yeah, I guess I don't even want to sit here and take a stab at that.
I think we need to put an overtime
so.
factor in there. Whether it's exact or not, I think you should put it in there and pad it a little bit.
I think, yes.
So David, are you suggesting we increase it more than 162 an hour?
No, that,
I don't know. I mean,
I know, but how would we factor in overtime?
So I have
could you
a separate
explain that to
line
me?
item on
Yeah,
it.
I know, I understand that, but,
and some of that is to fill vacant shifts, so
Okay.
that's where we would factor it. And we'd have to increase my overtime budget, is what he's saying,
okay,
by a certain amount.
okay,
Overall needed amount.
Yeah.
okay.
right.
But we don't know that right now.
Well, it's going to result in some overtime, but
Right.
like he said, I don't know how much.
Right.
I'd have, yeah,
Right, so there's two questions into my mind. It's one, without the overtime factor in there, I think we should figure that out and add that to it and come up with what we think that is in the right buckets in the budget. And number two, is it enough? Meaning, is that $1.62 enough as well? How confident are we that we're gonna, minimize the turnover, with that? And again, do we want to revisit this in another 6 months or less, you know?
I'd like to think at some point when they raise their rates up in Eau Claire, that eventually all those openings are going to get filled, and there's not going to be that demand again, but,
Right.
and, you look at that scale, we'd be right in the middle if you went with that $1.62, and I think that's a good place to be.
I'd feel good if
So,
it was $2 an hour increase.
It really, one thing you're going to see is that pay scale, it's, the grades and the steps. The steps compress as you get farther down in your career. And if we start adding $2 an hour to that last step, it's going to bump them
I
up
know,
somebody that's
I know.
3 grade. I mean,
I just
this
know.
alone is going to create some
Yeah,
problems, I
you-
think, but,
I know. Law enforcement is like near and dear to me, so,
well, I think it's a dangerous job.
right.
But you got to look at, we have to staff that place too. It's a
Right.
brand-new jail. We want to staff it. We don't want to have to worry about that. And we don't want to be housing inmates out of county because we can't staff a brand-new facility
Right.
here.
That would not be good.
But I appreciate the comment. Jails are very
It's really
dangerous.
important.
I'll say, maybe outside of the scope of this discussion, but we get those folks when they're at their worst. And we stabilize them before they go to the prisons.
Right.
So that's a very dangerous place to work in that. And hopefully the new jail makes that a little safer, but, so.
So, another comment you had made was talking about potentially reclassing as, they are a WRS protected employee. I guess that would have, a pretty significant impact, as well. So, I'm not sure how these two pieces fit together. It's kind of, I'm all in favor of increasing where we're at right now, but if we're gonna reclass in the near future, that kind of throws these numbers out the window for our budget.
So when I say reclass, we probably got to get them into a grade higher than what they're at now. But the wages we're proposing, I think, could fit into that grid. We just have to get them, recognize that and get it out of the grid, out of that grade, I believe. I wouldn't necessarily propose a wage increase again, just because now they're gonna be protected status, because they already are. I just think we need to put them in a different line on the grade scale and fit their current wage in that scale somehow.
And this will fit, 162 will fit within
I
what
would
you're
think so.
thinking?
I
Okay.
would think so, yeah.
Okay.
Did all employees take the grade protected pay, whatever?
I don't know if any did. Did some? I think it's about 18% across the state for county jails.
I think what we had then was 3 and 3, that was as of Friday.
Yeah.
And they had till the end of the day.
Yeah.
Chair, one other comment I just want to make, because I'm in favor of getting it where we need to be to solidify it, whatever that number is, and making sure that it's right for the budget this year. Remember when we went through the budget last fall, or last September, and then further information coming to us from Jeremy on the cost to operate this new building, we really severely under budgeted what we know the electric and heat and gas, all that's gonna cost. So we really gotta be careful, what we're doing with other expenses everywhere, because we're gonna have to come back at the end of this year to shore up Jeremy's budget for utilities. So it's tight. It's really, really tight. I think this is the right thing to do. We need to find that money elsewhere.
Like where?
I think, to your point, though, that's why I think this is a logical step without going too far right now. I think it's like, we need to do something to make sure that we don't lose personnel. That's gonna be, yeah, that is a concern, and that's a whole conversation and work that we'll have to be doing, coming up in the future. And so, and then, like I said, I don't have a good handle on things and where they're at right now. I don't have access to the, financials yet. I'm not in New Vision, so I don't even have that. So we are taking, but it's, you just spent all this money to build this facility, you have to staff it, right? I mean, so this is, we could go $2, you could go more, you could plan a lot, add a lot of things, but I think if it has to come back, it has to come back. Doesn't it make sense maybe to take this step right now and see if that'll hold things for us so that we don't have to go further than what we need to at this point, because we are trying to be careful.
The only thing I would ask at this point is Dave's comment in regard to the potential overtime. Is that a sufficient issue to address here with something additional, or do you consider it a real minor thing that you might be able to adjust?
Well, you're looking at $2.40 an hour would be the overtime rate.
So that isn't something that we looked at. I think it's a really good question. I don't know, I don't think that the impact will be that big, but if this was passed today and Carol ran those numbers, could we bring it back then to the county board on the night to go, and then it's amended?
I think it has to come back to the committee. If you-
Does it have to come back?
Yeah, it'd have to come back
I
to
think so,
personnel and then
yeah.
exec finance if it
Which
comes
is-
out of,
It's just gonna be slow.
Okay.
That's
You
why,
know-
if we can apply a factor in there, even if it's a guess,
Sure.
1.2% overtime, can we quickly do that and then adjust the number?
I guess, do we need to do that now? I agree it needs to be addressed at some point. My concern would be if we were to pass this as it stands, what is the problem as the year goes on and we see where that number is getting, to wait a few months and adjust the overtime budget then? Because this specific resolution would still stand, and then we'd be bringing forward a different resolution that only addressed his overtime account?
What
And-
could happen hypothetically is Jeremy comes back and says, well, we're spending 50 grand more a month on utilities, and we just wiped out our whole budget just on that, and now you don't have the money to pay the jailer. So I'd like to get it done now, and then that's covered. That's the issue that could have.
just for me, I feel uncomfortable pulling a number out of the air where we don't know. And my feeling is if we don't support our employees are what make this building work. If we don't have employees, we got nothing. And so we need to support the jailers, we need to support everybody that works in this building, because there was no COLA for them. So this is a good start for me in supporting the jailers and making sure we don't have a mass exodus. Even if they're working in a brand-new, beautiful building, if they can make $40 an hour away from here, I think we could I don't know, Brett, can we come back? Do you think, is this something we need to do today? I need to hear it from you, or
Well, I've got one in an interview right now.
no, but I mean for like overtime, if we address the overtime issue. Is
No,
that-
and my initial thought is, I only have to bring in 12 inmates starting in April to make up what we're at. The potential is we could take in up to 20 probably or more, so.
Okay.
I would be hopeful that we could generate enough revenue maybe to offset that this year.
Okay.
And once we get closer to the end of the year, take a look at the budget, see where we're at, and if we have to revisit it, then might be the time.
Okay. I feel more comfortable doing that when we have a known factor. When we just pull a number out of what it might be, because we don't know.
I guess I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
I'll second.
We have motion made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Does that include changing when the first payroll period is?
I think the payroll period was already okay.
April 1st.
Is it listed in the resolution?
Is it in the resolution?
It's not.
I guess it is not listed, perhaps.
I would say let's change that to be the first payroll period after it takes effect, and then we're covered.
With that language,
No, that'd be like March sometime.
With county board.
Oh, this has to go to the county board.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
so
Yeah, that'll be all right then.
18th?
Then it doesn't matter what date it is,
Right,
because it's the first
right.
one.
after.
Because we always say that at the county board. Okay, is it the first pay period, people ask
I
that.
will, would you prefer that I withdraw my motion, or would you like to make an amendment? I'll withdraw my motion, if that's acceptable.
That's
to my
acceptable
second.
to me, yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to include the verbiage on the second to last paragraph. This wage adjustment shall take effect at the first payroll period after it takes effect.
Wait, that's
After the
not,
resolution takes effect.
After the resolution takes effect, yes.
so that will happen at our,
So after we vote on the county board, the
Yeah.
18th,
the 18th,
It'll be the first.
that'll be the first then, right? Okay, that's good then, that's good.
I will second that motion.
I didn't hear Dave say he made a motion to approve first before he was adding.
I make a motion to approve this with that,
There you
what I
go.
just mentioned as a change.
no motion
I'll
made and
second.
seconded.
We're good now.
Any other discussion from either committee?
I have a question.
Oh,
If, Sheriff, I'm wondering if next time you come to the board to give report, whether or not this number is looking good or not, can you just give us an update at that time?
Yes.
Okay, great.
It would probably be the April meeting, not the March meeting, because you'll be approving it at the March meeting.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean, Bridget?
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you.
hey, thanks.
Any other
thank you.
comments, questions?
Just a revenue thing. Starting in July, we're supposed to get like a 0.5% increase in the sales tax revenue, because the state's gonna give us an extra 0.5%, which is what we're getting right now, so it should basically double our sales tax revenue.
That's what he's saying.
Brett's overtime in his original budget that he submits is an estimate, it's not set in
Yeah.
stone. It's-
There may already be enough.
This is like the smallest print on the planet.
Time will tell. Okay. Any other
Oh,
comments?
goodness.
Hearing none, all in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
oh good, the third page is bigger.
Next item up is the 2025 to 2028 proposed elected pay compensation plan for county clerk, treasurer, and register of deeds.
All right. So this is the packet that you just got with all the lovely yellow print and colorful on there. Again, I've only been here a month, and I have to give a shout out to team members Sam and Amy, a lot of people helping to pull numbers as well as our elected. So to remind everyone, the positions of county clerk, county treasurer, and register of deeds are filled by partisan candidates who have been elected for a 4-year term. The responsibilities and the roles and responsibilities of these county officers fall under 5917 of the Wisconsin State Statute. The positions are considered department head level positions, performing the duties and functions associated with managing a department and similarly to other director levels roles throughout the county. So salaries for these positions are reviewed and considered every 4 years prior to the April election. Information has been presented to you in the past from the electeds themselves saying, we need to think about this because the election's coming up. And according to state statute, we need to have that into place. We know that. So I have presented in this chart for you the brown line, and that is where the proposal was to you in December when you got that. So I've been collecting this data, and again, I've had help from Sam and Amy on putting all of this together, but wanted to highlight the yellow areas, which are counties that surround us. in one of the columns, I think it's just the fourth column there, it talks about we put in a population line so that we could see what's the population of all these counties and how we then fall. So the first one is the county clerk wages, and you can, again, the brown line is what was presented to you in December, and then the treasurer and the register of deeds, the 3 pages. So I'll let you just look at that for a minute. Get your binoculars out. Your reading glasses.
2.75.
Yeah. And I think what could help us even a little bit more, if you want to take a look closer at that data, but if you want to look at the last 3 pages, they're the maps of Wisconsin. And that just took this data in front of you in the small little lines, and we put the data on what's the pay going to look like down in the box, down in the left-hand corner of your paper. This is my proposed number. This is a 3% increase across all lines. If you would have seen, the brown was a proposed at just about an 8% increase in that first year. In looking at this and comparing across the counties, and in particular, looking at La Crosse and Eau Claire counties, we do need to stay competitive. Same type of thing. We are competing with other areas around us. Eau Claire and La Crosse are proposing and are putting into place 3% increases across the board. And so my proposal is to say a 3% seems to stay in line with what's happening there. There are counties, as you can see, if you look back at the small lines again, there are counties that are going higher than 3%. But I think that those counties, when I'm looking at those, have not stayed competitive throughout time. So you've done a good job in staying competitive in these salary ranges, but they're trying to make up some ground. So if you look at the county clerk is on the first page, Wisconsin, and the county treasurer, and then you've got the register of deeds. So these are, again, my proposed numbers. And so they stay exactly where we're at right now, again, in comparison to these other counties, as far as if you look at where we're at compared to La Crosse County, we're about, what is it again now? Let me think here. It's, I gotta see, $8,000, about $8,000 less. And if we carry that across over these next 4 years, at 3%, we're gonna be about the same, 8,000 less. But we're still then staying comparable, and that's, so that, this is just, again, having just stepped into this position, is when I'm looking at these numbers, this is what I would tend to fall in line in saying, I believe that makes sense. But certainly, it's up to you and your discussion. But to think I wouldn't go too much lower, and again, just staying and not losing ground and where you've been. Again, I will point out that this isn't ideal time to be putting in pay raise, thinking about this. We're tying ourselves to a pay raise that is in 2025. This doesn't happen until 2025, but we're tying ourselves to that. We don't have the money budgeted. We don't know what's coming, but I'll just point out, it's by law that we have to decide. You could decide to do 0. You don't have to do anything. The state doesn't say you have to do an increase, but I think it's wise to be thinking about that as we, again, compete.
With these maps, is that showing the surrounding areas, does that have their 3% increase included also in the
Yes.
map form?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the proposed on the bottom, is, and I just did the last year then. So this year is showing 2028 on each of the sheets, where we'd be in 2028.
So those that are in yellow, are those actual rates that they're going to be paying, or did you just assume those percentages?
They are from those counties.
They've already passed those resolutions.
Some have not, some are in process yet.
It's, if you look at the first column, it says, some say approve, some say
Yep.
oppose. But they have to get it done too,
Correct,
by the end of this month, because election day is
correct.
soon.
I was just on a meeting with administrators yesterday, and it did, in those conversations, it did appear like these numbers were holding. So in the resolution, then on the back page, that just again breaks it down into the years so that you would see that, and where we're at on
I
that.
make a motion to approve the resolution establishing the annual compensation for county elected officials. Our county elected officials from Will County.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yep, Bridget?
I just, in looking at these, I just wanted to note that, you know, when you initially look at some of the counties, we're well above. And then, as our administrator said, that we wanted to remain competitive with Eau Claire Lacrosse. My only issue with that is that those counties are so much larger than Trempealeau. We do seem to be more in line with Clark, Jackson, Buffalo, as far as population goes. So I just wanted to put that out there and make that comment. Thank you.
I think you're absolutely right, and if you look at, and even Monroe, I mean, and Chippewa, the area that we're proposing is still in line with Chippewa, Clark, Jackson, Monroe. So it's competitive with those areas as well. And I think, you know, you see as an outlier, Dunn County has, they went crazy, and they're boosting all of 3 wages up to 104. So I think you see a little bit lower in Pierce and Buffalo and Pepin. But again, they have not kept pace over what appears over the years. And Jackson's a little bit lower as well, although they're still not too much lower.
We haven't kept pace either. When we looked at this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, but when we looked at this a few years ago, we really had to get on board because we were really lagging.
That's why we're
Supporting
not
our
as,
elected officials.
correct. So that's why we're not as bad as some of those counties.
Right, right, but, like Pepin's tinier than us, and so is Buffalo.
And what the research she did, we're all in agreement, she's done what she needs to do.
I'm looking at you through the.
I know. Yeah, we're in agreement with what she's come with, what Rebecca's come up with. She's being very fair.
You know, 2024 will be a boom year for us. I'm so excited that we sell tax, we have people about snow. I'm worried about that.
Just one other comment. As of right now, we have very experienced people in all 3 of these positions. That probably has a little additional value to us.
For sure.
The number personally is a little higher than I'd like to see, but then we are competing with Eau Claire and La Crosse whether we like it or not. This number seems to be somewhere in between
Exactly. All of them.
all of them. Just
It's a good number.
any more questions?
I have, guess, a comment here. So as we continue to, see that increase through the years, obviously, a percentage point, it builds, it compounds. I would maybe just suggest, in the interest of being, making sure we're being responsible financially, we don't know where our budget's gonna be for the increase for the year 2028, doing that increase at a 2% instead of a 3%. So throw that out for suggestion and, just kind of finding a middle ground to make sure we're being fiscally responsible, but still keeping up with, the times.
And if I could just address,
Sure, great.
because I do appreciate that, and I do, I feel like, well, maybe you could pull back a little bit on some of these other that are a little lower. I don't know, but I will just remind you of this. Where we're at right now in the demographic shift that's happening is stressful on all positions, and we're feeling it across all areas. This continues to compound and get worse through 2040. So I just want to, let you know that what we're experiencing now, I think we just need to continue to think about that and how that will impact. Now, that also, we have to consider again, how that impacts what we're doing in the county to, as people age, how do we bring in young people and new people to replace our tax base or grow our tax base, right? So we have to think about that as well, but hopefully we'll be doing that so that we don't have to be concerned about losing tax base at the same time that we're adding this. So I appreciate your thoughts on that, but I just want to put out that piece of data as a reminder and why it is important to be competitive.
And just to add to that, I think there's a lack of energy for people running for elected positions, especially county clerks, because of how elections have been happening. That has been a really hot spot. And Rose, I don't think anybody ran against you last time. You're seeing the treasurer, so supporting our elected officials. I mean, I worry about just people not running.
Jeannie, your mic's not on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well.
Thank you.
Okay, I was just commenting, Bridget, and whoever else is out there listening, that getting people to run for public office is difficult these days, especially county clerks.
And again, I think too, it's unfortunate that we have to, we're projecting out for 4 years and but we're tied to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that is what the state puts into place for us.
Any more comments, questions?
How many election cycles does this get us through?
4.
Two.
One
One
cycle.
cycle.
One cycle of,
these
4 years.
positions.
2 years from now, I'll be the sheriff.
He just got elected, didn't he? Right? So he's
Halfway.
3 more years.
Actually,
But we're not talking about him.
We'll have to discuss the wages in 3
Right.
or
2.
2.
I guess my thought, I still feel it'd be responsible of us to take that 2028, put it at 2% instead of 3%.
Are you amending something? Are you?
So if, I want to discuss this a little further before I propose an amendment. In doing so, it's fairly small, but it, saves us around $3,000 as a county. Every little bit helps. We are not giving a full 3% to our the rest of our staff. This would bring it a little closer to the 2.9 that they're actually averaging over those years and might be a little more fair to the rest of the employees as a whole. So if there's any interest in that, I guess I would be willing to propose an amendment, but if there's further discussion where we feel that's not honoring people appropriately, I'd like to hear it. 'Cause-
I see your point. My only concern is that they aren't the regular county employees. They are elected officials. And I think we would be trying to compare apples to oranges if we link them in with the rest of the county employees.
I guess I feel that they are still serving as department heads and part of the staff that's here every day. And, I think a 3% increase is great. I'm not asking for a lot. I guess I'm going to propose amending this resolution to change the 2028 increase to 2%.
So you made that a motion?
So, yeah, that is a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Questions?
What's your question? I thought you said
So are you
question.
gonna
No,
vote
I-
on the motion?
What's that?
Are we gonna vote on the motion?
In a minute. I have a question for Corp Counsel. This is a joint meeting that we vote together, or do we need to vote as separate committees on items?
That's a very good question. You need to have sufficient numbers. The last vote, I believe, was unanimous. So it
Right,
wasn't
yep.
an issue. But each committee needs to have sufficient numbers to establish a quorum for its vote to continue forward. So, I believe that Supervisor Orsh, you motioned for it, is that correct?
No, I
Or was
seconded
that-
it.
Okay, and you, Supervisor Palmer.
Which is also one from each committee. Does-
I think when we go through, we need to be very careful for if this is called to a vote, whatever format that is, that we have sufficient numbers on this one,
On each committee?
on each committee, moving forward for each amendment as well as on the resolution.
Okay. So in this case, with probability of,
So are you're
Do you
saying
want the
his
personnel committee to vote first?
second is invalid?
no,
Because
no,
we're in-
I- no, I
Not
don't,
really.
I have a
No.
question.
it's
Because
just,
we're in joint, basically.
I have a question though, before we
Okay.
vote on anything. Does it matter if it was made a motion and the second was by different committees?
We have a joint committee. The whole purpose of this is to have open discussion. I think the biggest question, two things, one of which we could establish that down the road, within the standing rules, if you guys want to do something more specific or different. But I think the bigger thing is to make sure you have sufficient votes today to establish whatever is the direction of this.
no. Now, is that sufficient vote from each committee independently?
You have to have sufficient votes from both to pass
Okay,
the board.
okay.
So, but if we called the question with the motions that we currently have, one from each, and just say it passed unanimously, it'd be fine.
As long as it's unanimous, you're good. But
If there's any kind of division, then we have to
make sure we have it right
separate.
now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to, if I heard correctly, year 28, reduce it by 1%. Is that what your motion was? Correct.
So it would end up at 2% in year 28.
28, yeah.
So what happens with the other motion that's on the floor?
Well, first we have to vote on this
This is
amendment.
an amendment to it.
Because you're amending, okay.
Yeah.
I already did the motion and he seconded it for the original resolution.
And so now you're amending that.
He's
which
amending
you,
it,
Made a
yes.
motion to.
And then we see where that goes.
Okay, seems like there's going to probably be differing votes. I think I'm going to call on the exec finance for a vote. All in favor from exec finance, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, now it's up to you for your,
Okay, well, I'll call the Personnel Bargaining Committee. All in favor of this amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Wait a minute. Well, so how did you vote?
We'll split, so I'll,
But a second.
well, but you didn't,
Emery.
Did I vote on the
you
wrong?
vote on
committee?
exec
Oh,
finance,
whoops. All right.
so
I think we should do
Maybe
roll
roll
call
call
because it
makes it
involves
simple.
money.
can you guys
Okay.
do roll call?
okay,
It's not something we do usually.
okay, exec finance roll call vote
Oh,
on
we
the,
will.
on the, on the amendment. John Austin,
Yes.
Dave Orsh,
Yes.
Sasha?
Yes.
Yes. Bridget?
Yes.
And Dave, yes. Okay,
Okay,
we're
so
5-0 on the amendment.
I'll do the same then for ours. So Allison,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Nutter,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson, yes. So we're 4-1. Motion passed.
Okay, now we're back to discussing the original
So now we have an amended motion.
with the amendment on it, which now will be taking the year 2028 to a 2% instead of 3%.
Amendment passed, right? Did I get that right?
It didn't have to be unanimous? Okay,
Just becomes like a regular committee vote.
Yep.
then.
okay.
It was still 9 to 10. I mean, 9 to 1.
9 to 1, yeah. Okay, we're back to the original amendment as amended. Everybody understand where we are?
What does that figure turn out to be, you know, off the top here, Emily?
I'm working on it. I didn't write it down the first time I did it.
While he's working, is there any other discussion or questions on it?
Can we revisit this in 2028?
Statutorily, we
If
have-
we're all still alive, I guess.
How old will I be? I'll still be in my 70s. Thank God. You're younger than me. Yeah, 1 year, isn't it?
So do you want the numbers for each individual column then at a 2%? Is that what?
If you've got them, that would be good. The only thing that really concerns me is the total number of less money that it would be.
Did you figure it out for all 3 positions?
I figured it for them individually.
Let's just go
90.
with those numbers.
Yeah.
then.
It's
Yeah,
just
so
two.
for county clerk at a 2%, that would put the 2028 at $90,208.66. For the treasurer, it would put the 2028 at $87,411.05. And for the register of deeds, it would put the 2028 at $87,411.05.
Can I make a comment?
It's open yet?
The reason I don't like percentage increases is those people making the least amount of money get the biggest hit with your 2%.
But this is,
I know, but I'm just saying, and the county clerk gets a slight hit because the wage is higher. So,
Okay.
just a thought, which is why I hate percentage increases.
Now
Because those
then,
at the top make the most in a percentage increase.
are we ready to start voting on the amended resolution? Exec Finance, John Austin,
Yes.
Dave Orr?
Yes.
Dick Zasha? Yes?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
And Dave, yes, 5-0.
All right, personnel bargaining, all in favor? Oh, we'll call it roll. Austin,
Yes.
Palmer,
yes.
Nutter,
I'm voting no because I don't agree with the 2% increase. I would like a 3% increase.
Johnson.
Yes.
Nelson, yes. Motion carried.
Okay.
Okay,
Your turn.
next item on, agenda is item number 6. Proposed 2024 special compensation for non-represented positions.
Okay, so you are getting a sheet in front of you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, okay.
And I'll wait for that to kind of get around here. So this is for discussion only, no action on this. But I wanted to bring this forward to you because I've had a lot of individuals saying to me, there was no COLA this year, there was no COLA. We couldn't decide on a number and it was dropped and we're waiting for you to come in. So, knowing that I'm only here, again, for a little bit of time, I wanted to take a look at this. And again, I do not like budget increases like this that are ongoing and they impact us into the next year without knowing what our budget is. I don't think it's appropriate, so I would not recommend doing a simple COLA increase at this time because nothing was budgeted. The one option you could have, and that I'm bringing forward to you, is a special compensation. You could call it a bonus. I like a special compensation, okay? So I just and again, I'm gonna thank Stacy this time in helping to run numbers and say, what would that look like? What would the impact be to our budget? So if you look at 75 cents per person times their hours, a full-time person that they work a year, you're gonna end up with, they'd end up with a cost or a check of 1,560, but then we gotta take their benefits into that and what that would cost. And you can see then over to the far right, that's a budget impact of $376,000 to the budget. That's not even, I mean, this is again, just for discussion. We aren't talking about what would that mean? Do you want to include part-timers and things like that, right? I just wanted to do a high-level discussion with you on this. Okay, so let's say we drop it down to 50 cents and we did the special compensation. What would that cost? Again, far right, $250,000. And then the bottom, the 25 cents. So these, the 25 cents and the 75 cents were thrown at me. And so I just wanted to show, like, this is what the impact would be. And so if you did read my memo, I don't, myself, you could take further conversation with this. You could take this up later in the year. I, again, stepping into this position, don't feel comfortable right at this moment because, again, I don't have access to all financial information and in the systems. So I would say that this is a topic that I just wanted to share with you because that's been brought up to me multiple times. And that it is not something that I recommend at this time, but then you have a better idea of what it would cost. And again, as we work through the year and looking at, again, if there are extra funds that come in, or we have a better idea what the budget's gonna look like for next year, you could maybe take it up again. But again, if you give me direction to continue to work through this and bring it back next time, I would do that. But at this point, I'm just sharing it. And because I think a consideration is in talking with staff and other individuals, it's known here that we need some other processes and systems in place, and that's gonna cost us. And so we're just starting that research on that, so I want us to consider that and how that will impact our budget as well. But also, I want you to think about really compensation again for staff is a difficult subject right now, and we're all dealing with this because of these upward pressures. I think our next item on the agenda is a really great idea as a way to compensate for individuals without impacting our budget a lot. So I'm just throwing this out here without talking about the next agenda item. I just want to throw this out for discussion.
And I would like you to keep thinking about it, and Stacy, maybe you can answer this. When we were looking at the 75-cent an hour increase at the budget hearing, the reason it wasn't in the budget is because Exec Finance chose not to do a COLA, so. But Paul talked about
That's not accurate. I just want to make a statement that's not accurate.
some money that wasn't used. It was like 100 and some thousand that could be used to compensate for increases for.
That came from some kind of contingency fund.
Yes,
Yes.
a contingency
It was
fund. It
put
was
in there
well
for the
over
health
100,000.
Yeah, it was put in there for the health insurance. the
Right, and we
guesstimate on
didn't
that,
use it.
And we didn't use it all. Yep.
So there's money for you to continue to look at this, because it's no secret I'm an advocate for employees here, because I was a county employee once, and I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to see your colleagues leave to go someplace else because they're making more money, even though they love their job, but, you know, they have 3 kids now, and things have changed, and life is difficult.
Yeah, and I totally agree in the concept of compensation. again, you're talking about funds, maybe this is a one-time thing, right? Because otherwise, if we're putting it into our actual pay, it's compounding and we don't have that budgeted. But also, you know, as the other side, in looking at your higher paid individuals were given a 1.25% increase. That's just, it's not good at this time of the market right now. I mean, I would say that. Again, I like the other thoughts on how to compensate at this point, but I don't know if you can do both, you know, and so anyway, that's just the way I look at it at this
Yeah,
point.
and I think what I'm asking you is to not
Yep.
forget about it,
Okay.
to keep it high on your agenda and think about it.
Okay.
Because, you know, we have really dedicated employees here. They stuck with us during COVID, and it was a difficult time, and we're out of that, and, but, you know, things are improving, but we don't always see it. And it's still a struggle for people, so I would just, and I know the next agenda item is a good one for a couple reasons, and Tim can talk about why we chose those 2 days. Don't pretend you're not involved anymore, sir. But, yeah, so I appreciate you keeping this in your brain.
And if I may expand on that, or were you gonna speak, Bridget?
Yeah, I think she's got something.
Bridget has her hand up.
So, and I agree that we need to do something with the wage scales, and our employees need to be compensated. But to say that there was no cost of living increase, if you want to call it a cost of living, then no, there wasn't any. But every employee got a step increase, which was what the county decided to move forward was with the step increases.
But some people's, oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm not saying that kept up with it, because I'm not a fan of the step system that we have. But there was compensation made, and I think that that's of some value. And I agree with Dave Orsh that the cost of living, the COLA, was discussed in executive finance. And it wasn't that it was decided that we would not do it. We just wanted the new administrators' input when they came on board without leaving them with such a tight budget by doing something. And we thought that they would have some insight and knowledge into that as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
For the could I make a statement for the record? When we went through the budget process, we looked at all facets, all budgets. Everywhere was cut, every place. When it came to the final decision of where we had to be for the budget to stay within our levy, we couldn't afford a COLA. I'll leave it at that.
It's unfortunate.
And on those lines, I just would like to say, I like the idea of kind of, as proposed with the special compensation, how it is a flat rate, a quarter an hour, 75 cents an hour, in that the people at the bottom of our pay scale are actually getting a better percentage bump than the people
Right.
at the top. And that's where I believe we need to improve the most as a county, for the sake of, you know, when we get there in the future for these discussions. I'd just like that little seed to be planted.
Thank you. I think that's why in the Personnel Committee, we looked at a fixed instead of a percentage, because the people, the lowest paid people don't get anything in a percentage increase.
They don't get as much.
Right, and I
And
think
oftentimes those are the folks that can use.
use it the most.
The
And I
most,
think, I don't want to go into who got what in a step increase, but it's, you know, it's not equitable across the board.
Any other comments on this subject?
You're okay with me tabling that for a while, or you want me to bring it back sooner, or?
What are the wishes committee? Sounds like bring it back.
I would make a motion that we table it till you're ready.
Yeah.
Like May,
No motion, but we'll just,
May or June.
I'll take that as,
Bring it back.
okay. Okay, then, finally, you have, oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna read. number 7?
This is the transfers from general fund for wage and salary accounts for additional public safety employee holiday pay. Discussion and then possible action first.
So, as I had shared in just my little memo on this, it's not being brought forward by me, had been work done by others. And but I am speaking for this and just saying, if you look at the chart here again, the last one that you've been given now, it shows an impact of jailers, again, and to Dave's point, though, this would not include overtime, that, you know, their wages on top of that, so that's something to think about. But anyway, so these are the impacts of doing 2 extra holidays for individuals here. So I don't know if you have questions. I laid it out on this chart and not knowing if we would have the pay increase go through the jailer. So total on the backside, if you look at the total, the impact for jailer wage increase with that increase that we had of the $1.62 was $4,699.18. So again, not taking into account there may be some overtime into that. And then you have the resolution that goes along with
Overtime
that.
won't be affected because they're being paid overtime. The only thing that would change this is if the jailers needed more jailers on at that time, on a holiday day.
Okay, extra staffing.
Correct.
Okay, thanks, Stacy. And thanks to Stacy again for helping with this.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution to transfer accounts from the general fund to wage and salary accounts for additional public safety and employee holiday pay for the 2 extra holidays, which would be Veterans Day which is November 11th, and Juneteenth, which is June 19th.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
So,
I think you had a good point there. I'd like to have you bring up your point.
I would very much like to see this done for 1 year with revisiting it at budget time next year. If we can afford more money instead of the 2 holidays, I think that would be a better situation. The 2 holidays for this year doesn't affect our budget. We can offer that as in place of the dollars we don't have. But next year, if we can do the money and/or the holidays, if that's the way it works out, but I'd like to see this put in place just for this year. Tim, you had a point. Go, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
I would like to speak to that particular issue. One of the reasons we proposed this is the original task that was provided by Personnel and Bargaining was to improve the candidate pool we're getting for recruits and to make it more attractive to work here, which is a long-term mission. So if you do it as a 1-year compensation to the people who are already here, it kind of misrepresents what was originally proposed for in the first place. Not as a reward to the existing staff, but as a way of trying to retain the existing staff, but then find additional employees. So if you do it as a 1-year experiment, you can't advertise to future employees that this is how we're going to do things. You can easily reverse this next year if you find that the citizenry is very upset with your decision to add 2 more holidays. But by limiting that, not only will you get it from your constituents for giving them 2 extra holidays, but the staff isn't going to like you very much anyway. So you might as well take a win somewhere. Thank you very much.
Well, and if I could just add to that, I think, and Palmer can speak to this as also, we're looking at trying to be more inclusive here, and Juneteenth is a holiday, it's a federal holiday, and I think makes us more like, gosh, Trempealeau County is really thinking about people and celebrating the end of slavery, And we're also thinking about veterans, having that day off. You know, we talk about veterans all the time, but only when it's to our political benefit, I think. And so having that day off for them, those 2 days are critical. They were critical thinking when we talked about this in personnel bargaining.
I'd agree with Jeannie's statement, and that was really the point I wanted to make that Tim spoke to, is the intent here was something we could do to try to increase our candidate pool. Our retention is key to saving money for the county. Our training costs, in reality, when we look at it for employee turnover, for advertising positions, are significant, and there's a significant savings by retaining existing staff, attracting staff that will stay. And this was what we came up with for a lowest impact to the budget and being able to become more attractive that way. And I guess I personally believe, while I do not have numbers to support it, that in the long run, this is going to save the county money by taking this approach. So that being said, I believe that trying it for a period of years is potentially going to be more cost effective than saying, we did it for 1 year. The impact is going to take some time to be seen from this. So I guess that's my 10 cents on why I believe it should be a multi-year policy.
I think you can.
One thing why this was brought up, Tim and I talked about, was the highway department got past the 10-hour holidays. So that shorted the courthouse staff who only work 8 hours that time. So that was another purpose of this also, just so you keep that in mind also.
This also brings more equity to every employee.
Correct.
And we really need to attract employees of color. It's, you know, we don't always represent the community that we live in.
Chair? So,
Please, Dave?
a couple comments. Notwithstanding that we do need to take care of our employees, and I believe we have, this seems to have come up because of the COLA issue and us trying to figure out some other way to compensate employees. As a supervisor, I represent my constituents, okay? The time that I have to go to the courthouse, or anybody has to go to the courthouse when it's open, is precious. So I ask a question: how many days is enough? Do we close the courthouse another 10 or 15 or 30 days a year because we have to compensate our employees? I think we do need to do our due diligence and compensate our employees and not add days just because we think we need to compensate them better. Our constituents need to have as many possible days in the year to come and do their business at this courthouse. I have people that come to me and say, I need to go take care of something at the courthouse. Well, hopefully they're open. So I lay this on the table that we should be refraining from adding holidays at all, and take care of our employees where we need to take care of them, and that is in our pay structure within the confines of the budget. I yield the floor.
I think, Tim, on Veterans Day, are the judges here and the DA? I can't remember if that's and Juneteenth,
Susan,
I think is a
believe, can address
state.
this, but courts can still be in session, but what's the key in the state won't accept pleads, or what?
Yeah, what you can perform is very limited. I believe that some of these offices are typically open, but there are certain things you can't do. For example, our offices matters, by statute, they're exempted as a holiday. So it depends, just your typical legal
Okay.
answer,
Right.
but.
That was the reason that they were
Okay.
chosen among the 4 that were.
Oh, right.
Apparently there's 5, but I didn't know that.
Okay. And this wasn't in place of COLA, David. It was done in conjunction with, we did both resolutions at the same time.
I want to address, I guess, some of your concerns, Mr. Orsh. I think that it is important we have hours that are accessible to the public. These particular holidays being also federal holidays, it seems to me that it would be beneficial to kind of keep our courthouse in line with what the federal holidays are doing, in the sense that it's predictable and helps us compete in that candidate pool. The cost, I guess, being a concern, what we can accomplish for employee satisfaction with $4,699, spreading that out across all the employees for employee retention, I see as very minimal when it's coming down to, a few dollars a year in someone's pocket versus that additional time off. I guess I feel like that's a biggest impact per dollar to our employees. The other thing that I think is important to keep in the back of the mind, which was stated, was how this evens up the playing field between the highway department and the rest of the courthouse employees. With the highway department working those 4/10s, they're getting those holidays. The rest of the employees aren't. Essentially, by doing that, it cleans up that issue where all of our county employees are being compensated equally on the holiday issue and what they're getting for paid time off as holidays in their compensation package.
I understand your point. The one thing to consider, though, is the highway department does not serve the general public like this building is here to do. So we need to look at our constituents and how often they have the ability to come and walk through those doors and take care of business. That was my only point.
I think the
And
highway
I think it's a good
department
point.
serves constituents. They had to come and clean off some trees from the road today so people could get down the highway. Because big tree, and they plow and they do a lot of stuff. They
They
dug
also
a
work
ditch
10
for
hours
me.
a day in this. They don't work 10 hours a day here.
Okay. I'm done with my,
And if it's emergency, they're out.
Yep.
Yeah.
they're good
It's a
people.
different role.
What?
It's different,
It's,
but
Yeah.
they have their.
I depend
I
on
think it's an
them.
apples to oranges comparison.
Correct.
Let's just
Understood.
leave it at
Yep.
that.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna try to push back a little bit with Emery's numbers. The 4,400 you're discussing here, that's a relatively minor amount compared to 2 paid holidays for all employees at budget time. I did a quick number, I think, about 3,800 hours of non-productive pay from a business standpoint. So the 4,400 is a real small amount of what the total actually is.
And I agree with that way of looking at it when we're saying it's paid time off. But I guess I'm looking at it, the actual dollar change in budget and what we can obtain
that's
for
for this
employee
year.
satisfaction.
That's for this year.
That is per year, but for 40, roughly, just for sake of not saying a number over and over, for roughly under 5,000 a year, if we can create a atmosphere that helps retain employees, if we retain one position and don't have to go through that training and recruiting in the course of a year, it pays for that additional expense. And so I guess I'm looking at it from an additional expense standpoint. I do realize that there is the incurred expense, but we have already committed to that incurred expense, but it is, yes, a loss of productivity, as you are stating.
Right.
And I would beg to differ about loss of productivity, because I know many staff who work at home and they don't get compensated for it. They take phone calls from people, and our CPS workers are on call during holidays, intakes on call. So I don't think, I would hate to say that, maybe there are some employees who are gonna go to the beach on June 19th, but I think a lot of workers, I know county workers, and I know they work from home a lot.
For the record, how many holidays do we have today?
8.
And so this would be 10. I don't know any other company out there that has 10 holidays.
Oh, gosh, yeah, they do. When
I
I worked for
don't-
the
I don't
state,
know
I
of
think we
any.
had 12 or 13.
A publicly traded company, a public, for hire company, nobody has those kinds of hours, so, holidays.
Some companies get the whole week between Christmas and New Year's off. That's a whole week.
Chair, I propose to postpone this indefinitely.
Bridget, did you have something?
I did. My comment was that I think if, to Tim's point, he was trying to make the point that this gives employee satisfaction and retention and whatnot. I think if you're looking for employee satisfaction and retention, that we should look at a more encompassing model. where we have, whether it be flex time or adjusted hours or.
We do have that.
Whatever. I don't think that just throwing 2 extra days of holiday pay is going to solve the problem. I think that employees want more pay and would like more time off, but I think more importantly, they would like more flexible time.
I think some departments do offer that. I'd like to call the question.
I had a motion out there earlier. I don't know if you heard it.
It's for
Yeah,
what?
I heard, but I.
Can you repeat your motion?
My motion was to propose the motion to postpone indefinitely.
Okay, now
I'll second that.
and a second. Is this another one we have to do individual, or,
That takes precedent over all the rest of them. So.
I don't, but,
Postpone indefinitely means
It's done.
it's done.
Are you kidding me?
And I think, I don't mean,
Thank
I
you.
mean, this
From
proposal
the employees.
indefinitely, what I would like to see is a more encompassing plan that truly gets to the root of the problem so that we can fully retain employees long-term. Not just a quick fix today and a quick fix on the wage and think that that makes everyone happy.
I don't think
There's
this was.
more to think about here.
I don't think this was a quick fix. I think this was a big, long discussion we had in personnel bargaining when we looked at, because the county board sent us back to look at pay scales, and Stacy spent hours working on it. We came up with a resolution, exec finance didn't move on it. So I don't understand what did you second the motion to table this indefinitely, and then we just forget about it for our employees? No COLA, no nothing? I mean, I don't mean to be angry, but I'm just so frustrated with this process. We were asked to do something 3 or 4 months ago, and we did it, and nobody wants to do anything about it.
we've got
I
it.
think this all ties in together, and I think that we need a better comprehensive plan. And I would like to see the administrator and the personnel bargaining committee working together for a more comprehensive plan. I don't know if that means that we need to hire a firm to look at our step system, but
We just
something
did that. We
is
just spent
more well-rounded.
$55,000 doing that.
4 years ago, 5 years ago.
No, it was,
when it was begun.
4 years ago.
that was 4 years ago? That was
No,
like,
Well, two.
it was
or
2
three.
years ago.
2 or 3.
No,
Yeah.
because it was already implemented when I got on the
It
board
was-
2.5 years.
We just
were
did
right
the
in
wage
middle of it
study
at that point in time.
with Baker.
Because I was here a year before.
This one started
so
in 2022,
We're 2 years into this.
right. So we just
Structure.
spent an enormous amount of money
Normally,
doing a
we
wage
don't
study.
redo that study.
We
Every
already
10
see
years.
that with the way the economy has gone and the employee retention and whatever else that's out there, we've already seen that that step system is antiquated already, and there's no accounting for it.
The study, so I will say from sitting on this through the wage study,
Not that that's the board's fault, I'm just saying it is.
the timing of the wage study was very unfortunate as to how the economy and the world has changed.
Right.
None of us could have foreseen that. I do believe that you are right, that a larger systemic approach is the correct way to adjust some of these problems. That's a good long-term goal, and without a doubt, in my opinion, the correct way to approach it. However, I feel bad going down that road at this point in time with Becky and all the things that she has on her plate. This isn't a quick fix to go down that road. That's probably at least a year approach and potentially longer and more dollars if you do another wage study. Which I'm not actually a proponent of because I don't know that we're going to gain anything by doing a wage study.
That was Carlson Detman, and it was just
I'd
2
like to
years
make
ago.
a comment if I
Doc?
can, please. I'm just, hopefully it's all right with Stacy. I've been watching her reaction, and I think she probably knows quite a bit what's going on there. And what I think her reaction is that these 2 days of compensation is gonna make our employees fairly happy or very happy, and if we change our mind on this now, I think we got issues, so I'm definitely in favor of the 2 days
It's a minor cost.
for,
Okay,
My
but
opinion was well.
we do have a motion.
Here right now,
Well, the
Yeah,
highway guys already got the time, number one. And number two, I showed you the comparison of the average amount of what a step cost and what the highways got in the last 2 years, which was the highway guys got 94 cents an hour between their raise in mid-year and their 40 cents or whatever you gave them, and we averaged out at something little, you know, it was less than that. And then you give them these hours and no cost of living, it won't be cool.
No.
And
And they already know, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
And I understand there's a motion and a second on the floor, and I have further discussion prior to voting on that motion.
Okay, okay.
With that, I think it is pertinent to keep this resolution in front of us and move forward with it, because this was not arrived at shortly. There was months of discussion that went into getting to this point and discussing how we were going to equalize things across the courthouse and try to make our employees feel they were being treated fairly from one group to the next. That was really the intent here, and we worked hard to come up with a solution with minimal budgetary impact to that. We could very well have said, we're going to, you know, push for different approaches here, but this was a solution that had the most minimal impact and seemed to have the biggest plus for the employees as a whole. So I guess I feel it's pertinent to move forward with approving this, and at any rate, I do not feel comfortable with the idea of taking it off the table indefinitely. So there's my bit.
Okay.
I would agree with you 100%.
I would agree with that too. It's a,
Let's vote then.
it's a morale boost.
get-
Well, we
let's get
gotta
this
vote on
going.
your,
Jeez.
vote on your motion
Well,
first.
it's important to think about this instead of just
Well,
hurrying it
everybody's saying, I
along.
agree. Well, then let's vote on it and get it
But
over
we
with
have
so we
your
can move on to
motion
the other
and Bridget's
discussion.
second. It takes
Chair, we gotta
priority.
get, let's go.
Unless you want to withdraw your motion.
That, I hear nothing, so that's not happening. Okay.
Are we like going down a wrong path with the motion to table it and a second to table it? Doesn't that like
No.
end it?
Jeannie, that was not a motion to table, it was a motion to postpone indefinitely,
Okay.
which pretty much does put it to bed.
I would like Susan to comment
Yep.
on that.
Do we get to vote on that?
Yeah, we
Susan,
will.
can you come to the table? Because I can't see your face.
Oh, sorry.
I'm looking through the,
You do have to vote on the motion. It's a proper motion. It's been seconded. So, and just for clarification's sake, I would probably do executive and then PB, and make sure you do it by roll call.
Okay,
thank you.
okay,
I
thank
was
you.
really confused about that.
So, okay, the motion to postpone indefinitely is the motion we're voting on. Exec finance, all in, John,
No.
Dave,
Yes.
no.
no, no, Bridget,
Yes.
and I'm a no. Okay, your turn. That was 3-2, right?
If it didn't pass that one, do we need to? I suppose we do.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lawson,
No.
Palmer,
No.
Nutter,
no.
Johnson,
No,
Nelson, no.
Okay, now we're back to the original motion.
Which was, you and I
The
did
original
it.
resolution. To approve the resolution as it was
And
presented
I
here.
called the question earlier, but
So we're not gonna have any more discussion?
I called the question on this resolution.
So I guess we're not having more discussion.
For a point of order, to call the question, you need to have a second unless for some reason one of the chairs or the chairs collectively want to essentially proceed informally.
There's other discussion.
If there's additional discussion,
Let's
I'd
have
like
the
to hear it.
discussion.
I don't like the idea of cutting off the democratic process.
Nope,
So there's no second to that call. So, Dave?
Yeah, so I want to go back to, again, my point on the constituency and how often is this building going to be open for the public to come do business. We have got to take that into consideration. So my question is, let's expand this. Let's say it's 20 days, 30 days, 40 days, so that we can keep our employees happy. Are we really going to just keep going down that path? I think it's the wrong thing to do. This is absolutely the wrong thing to do to solve an employee issue. I think we've heard the people saying, hey, we didn't get COLA, we're not happy with what our pay is. What's our turnover rate? Is anybody looking at that? I don't think it's very high at all.
It is, we look at it every month in
And what is
PD.
it? It's not high at all.
Where's Lisa?
So my point is,
It is high.
of this, what we've been the evidence that we've had here is nothing but anecdotal.
I can tell you,
Anecdotal.
I'm sorry.
If we only have anecdotal evidence to say that something's going to solve a problem, we're really not solving a problem. All we're doing is making these two committees feel good. Where is the constituents in this? The courthouse needs to be open as much as possible to take care of business. I'll yield the floor.
Jeannie?
I can talk, and I'm sure you don't have the turnover report with you, but I can give you an example in Human Services, because I'm on that committee. We've had openings ongoing for social workers. What we had to do is deprofessionalize we no longer require a certified social worker in the positions because we can't get them. So we're hiring people with 4-year degrees who are not social workers, who have not done social work, to do social work, to do child protection, to take kids out of their home, because we cannot get people. Health department, you could go to the HR department anytime and you can look at the turnover report. Health department has struggled to get people in place. The jail, we had a 3-month opening for a female jailer. So when we don't get people,
I have the turnover report from the end of December. We referenced 209 positions earlier when we were doing calculations. Over the course of 2023, 103 positions were filled by the HR department.
Can I just add?
Turn your mic on,
turn your
please.
mic on, or Bridget can't hear you.
So when I'm doing recruitment, I would just like to mention that I have a lot of people really looking for that work-life balance. And I can't tell you how many people I'm hooking in here on our benefits that are also asking about holidays, how many days of vacation they get. It means a lot to people. So to me, I have to say, I think the 2 additional days is going to be very important when I'm trying to sell Trempealeau County to new employees coming in. That is a conversation I have weekly with people that are really asking me that. They want to know our benefits, and they really want to know about the days off and the holidays that they get.
Okay, give me that number again. What was the starting number?
So earlier today, in some of the other discussions we had, we referenced 209 employees.
209, okay.
Yeah. According to our turnover report from December 14th meeting, personnel bargaining, pulled up that while sitting here. At that point, it was 103 positions have been filled in the course of 2023 alone.
That's right at a 50%.
Also, the Martin Luther King Training Day, I want to say, and I was not there for it, but I heard reference to the number of people who had been here for how long and how few have been here for a long time.
Over 50% of the employees are
Correct.
new within the last 2 years.
So, to say we don't have a turnover problem is not accurate. We have a turnover problem. And that is one of the reasons we have brought this forward.
And it is a significant cost to our
Training all these
county.
people.
Especially
For
when
what
you-
it's worth, and I'm not trying to argue, but go to the private, the turnover, we better get used to it, folks.
Sure.
People are not staying.
That is also true.
2 years on the job is huge. I'm working part-time, and I don't even know what our turnover is, but it's
I'm not gonna say
in
we're
another
the
world.
exception.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. The days
So
of
whatever
people
we're
staying
doing,
for their
you're not gonna
careers
correct
gone.
it. It's a new world out there, and these folks aren't staying.
And unfortunately, Eau Claire County is a great training ground for people, especially in human services.
That'll
Social
never
workers,
change. What are you gonna do
social
about it?
workers
Yeah.
come here, they get training, and one of the last social workers that left here, it just broke my heart to see her go. She got a $5 an hour increase in Eau Claire County, and she can work from home half-time.
We aren't gonna change that, folks. I wish
I
we
know.
could, but we
So
can't.
whatever we
Yeah.
can do
Well,
to
then-
And they're leaving Eau
retrain,
Claire County also.
to retain employees and prevent this massive turnover. I think at one point, we talked about it was $10,000 per employee for recruitment, for advertising,
It's more
for
than
training. There's massive amounts of training that go
Like
into
quarter of a
social workers before they can do anything. So,
Bridget, oh,
So
Bridget
So
would like to
it-
make a
Bridget,
comment.
Bridget, turn it up.
if the
Next.
goal is to improve employee satisfaction, why wouldn't we just give them 2 personal days and let them use it when they want to? That to me.
I believe Rose
is
could address this.
yeah, that doesn't work.
May I address the chairs?
Yep, yep. So,
Okay, the
Bridget, are you
reason we
done?
chose not to do additional personal holidays is there are smaller departments that when the courthouse is open, they must be staffed. The county clerk's office, the register of deeds, the treasurer's office, and when they have staff that have more days off, then they have trouble covering those days. And so we tabled that idea based on the feedback we got from the electeds in the smaller departments.
Right.
That was the reason for that. Thank
People
you for that
didn't
question.
want more personal holidays.
They want them.
But they want vacation
Absolutely.
days. They
Call
just don't.
employees'
Question, please.
feedback was they
Yeah.
would absolutely love days off as
Right.
opposed to holidays, but because of limitations of the organization, we chose to go
Right,
this route. But
right.
thank you, Bridget, for the question.
Again,
Okay,
call the
we've-
question, please.
Yep, we've had,
I'll second.
so. I think we have to do this.
We're doing voice vote.
Huh?
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah,
individual
roll
votes.
call,
Yeah.
again. Okay, for exec finance, the resolution, we didn't change anything apparently.
Point of order,
Okay,
I believe because we had call the question in a second, we actually have to vote on calling the question.
That is correct.
that's correct. Okay, can we do that voice
We'll
vote?
do voice vote and see where it
Just-
goes.
Okay. All in favor of calling the vote, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
2 to 8? 8 to 2. We are going to vote on the resolution as it is. So, we will start with exec finance.
Yes.
Orsh,
No.
Yes.
Bridget?
No.
Boy, you put me in a bind. I guess I'll give up and say yes,
You're not
because I don't
giving
want to be
up.
here all night.
You're not giving up.
Okay,
Personal bargaining,
Yes.
Austin, Palmer,
Yes.
Nutter,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson, yes. Motion carries.
Well, that was fast.
okay,
I don't think there's anything else.
I hope not,
So that is all that's on our agenda for today.
so,
So we will.
go.
As hard as this was for me to be in this meeting, I really appreciate
We will
it.
adjourn
Even though we
the
didn't all
joint
agree.
personnel bargaining and
Exec
exec finance committee meeting.
Bye, Bridget.